About myself, I'm a clinical psychologist. I got my doctorate in child and adolescent down in Miami. I worked in a children's hospital, and I've been in Boca region, Delray Boca, practicing private practice for about 5 years now. I also teach at a local university, Lynn. I do a lot of work they have a national event called Transitions, which is an event that they bring a lot of speakers. So I speak a lot on this and also on anxiety. And I do a lot of research with really young children, like 2-3-year-olds, on how to prevent later behavioral issues and mental health issues. And today I'm going to talk a lot about the research I'm doing on digital. So we're going to do a little bit of history. We're going to talk about the effects of too much screen time. We're going to talk about cell phones, social networking, the pros and cons, and talk about some strategies as well, how to limit it. So when we look back in history, we have all of the screens, and originally it started with television, but now we have cell phones, computers, iPads. Pretty much everything that we're doing has some sort of screen in front of us. Even now, there's a screen in front of us. So it is in every facet of our lives. When we go home, we sit on the television to watch a show. We talk on the telephone. We look at the phone. We work on a computer. We FaceTime each other. It is just everywhere. So it's a part of our culture. It's kind of becoming a fabric of our social cultural norms. So we have to consider that. So some historical his significance that in the 1970s, the Federal Trade Commission proposed a regulation banning advertising for candy and sugared cereals on shows targeting children under 13. This is the first time that the government said we need to do something about this advertising, and right around the 80s, Congress said, FTC, you're a national nanny. We need to put that on the parents, which was whole Reagan, right? Reagan was all about free enterprise. Yeah. So that had an impact. Since then, overweight rates have doubled and amongst children and tripled among adolescents. So things have changed. A little bit about myself. I grew up in the 80s. One of my favorite times in the week were Saturday mornings. Why? Saturday morning cartoons, right? They started at 8 and they ended at around 11 to 12. And I remember being so excited for that one day. I would run downstairs, grab a bag of Doritos, and sit and watch. And for about 4 hours, it was awesome. So much fun, exciting. Hi, welcome.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
So yeah, I would sit down and really enjoy the cartoons. And later, when I did research on those cartoons, I actually watch those cartoons now. And if you look at the ending credits, on most of those cartoons, they have a psychologist on staff. And what those cartoons were engineered to do was to sell you a product. They wanted to sell the action figures, they wanted to sell the games, and that was their whole purpose. So we're going to show you a little bit of a video kind of highlighting that.
I did the cartoon thing in the 70s though.
And that takes real teamwork. And here's a team of junior spacemen with an out-of-this-world
Hold on a second, sorry.
Comparing the marketing of it. To the marketing of today is like comparing a BB gun to a smartphone. It's not the same as when I was a kid, or even when people who are young adults today were kids. It's much more sophisticated and it's much more pervasive. It's not that products themselves are bad or good. It's the notion of manipulating children into buying the products. In 1998, Western International Media, Century City, and Lieberman Research Worldwide conducted a study on nagging.
We asked parents to keep a diary for 3 weeks and to record every time, you could imagine, every time their child nagged them for a product. We asked them to record when, where, and why.
This study was not to help parents cope with nagging. It was to help corporations help children nag for their products more effectively.
Anywhere from 20% to 40% of purchases would not have occurred unless the child had nagged their parents. That is, we found, for example, a quarter of all visits to theme parks wouldn't have occurred unless a child nagged their parents. 4 out of 10 visits to places like Chuck E. Cheese would not have occurred. And any parent would understand that. You know, when I think of Chuck E. Cheese, oh my goodness, it's noise. And there's so many kids. Why would I want to spend 2 hours there? But if the child nags enough, you're going to go. We saw the same thing with movies, with home video, with fast food. We do have to break through this barrier where they do tell us, or they say they don't like it when their kids nag. Well, that's just a general attitude that they possess. It doesn't mean that they necessarily act upon it 100% of the time. You can manipulate consumers into wanting and therefore buying your products. It's a game.
Children are not little adults. Their minds aren't developed. And what's happening is that marketers are playing to their developmental vulnerabilities. The advertising that children are exposed to today is honed by psychologists. It's enhanced by media technology that nobody ever thought was possible.
The more insight you have about the consumer, the more creative you'll be in your communication strategies. So if that takes a psychologist, yeah, we want one of those on staff.
I'm not saying that it's wrong to make things for children. You know, and I also think it's important to distinguish between psychologists who work on products for children, who help you know, toy corporations make toys that are developmentally appropriate. I think that's great. That's different from selling the toys directly to the children.
The initiative is huge. I think in the US we place about $12 billion of media time. So we'll put it on TV, we'll put it in print, we'll put it up in outdoor, we'll buy radio time. So we're the biggest buyers of advertising time and space in the US and in the world.
One family cannot combat an industry that spends $12 billion a year trying to get their children. They can't do it.
They are tomorrow's adult consumers, so start talking with them now, build that relationship when they're younger, and you've got them as an adult. Somebody asked me, Lucy, is that ethical? You're essentially manipulating these children. Well, yeah, is it ethical? I don't know. But our role and initiative is to move products. And if we know you move products with a certain creative execution, placed in a certain type of media vehicle, then we've done our job.
All right.
This is
Okay, so see the influence of what's going on? Okay, you see the influence of marketing has that they really changed since the 80s. For you guys who just came in, a bit of a history. How things have changed since the 80s, and since then, overweight rates have doubled amongst children and tripled amongst adolescents. So something we've never seen before. All right, so as of 2010, they did a national study of how long a typical child spends in front of a screen. And what they found is that they spend 7 hours and 38 minutes per day in front of a screen. 7 hours and 38 minutes a day. Now, media multitasking, which basically means you're on Facebook and you get a text message. You're multitasking, or you're watching a YouTube video while you're talking on the phone or researching something, whatever. That's media multitasking. That adds 10 hours and 45 minutes being influenced on the brain per day. So what that basically means is that a third of a child's life is in front of a screen, 31%. Now, what's even more alarming is this does not include educational purposes like homework or writing a research paper or anything related to academia. This is purely for entertainment purposes. Alarming. So what does that mean? And back in the day, if you will, I was going outside to play football. Now, I'm playing football. Things change. So, what are the effects? We know, and I've emphasized, the obesity rates. Youths who watch more than 2 hours a day are more likely to be overweight. The more TV children watch, the more likely they're going to resist going to bed and have trouble falling asleep. Sleep is essential for brain development, especially in children and adolescents. Behavioral problems. Elementary students who spend more than 2 hours a day watching TV or using a computer are more likely to have emotional, social, and attention problems. Exposure to video games also increase the risk of attention, and children who watch excessive amounts of TV are more likely to bully children who don't. Students who have TV in their bedrooms tend to perform worse on tests than those who don't. Direct correlation. Violence. Too much exposure to violence on TV and in movies, music videos, and video and computer desensitize children to violence. So children learn to accept violent behavior as the norm. You guys familiar with Grand Theft Auto? Heard that? Right? Call of Duty. Quite violent games. Rainbow Six. Quite shooting, killing. Very graphic. Those desensitize violence. So, what are the internet doing to our brain? Let's learn about that.
So you're reading an article online when you get an instant message with a link to a funny photo, which of course you have to share. And now you're reading your Facebook news wall, which sends you to a video of a panda bear attacking a kid. And now you're reading Wikipedia to learn everything you can about the violent behavior of panda bears. And this is what 3 minutes on the internet can be like. We live like this all the time, and it has to have some kind of effect on us.
The net is making us more superficial as thinkers.
That is Nicholas Carr. He is the author of The Shallows, What the Internet is Doing to Our Brains. To understand this whole thing better, we need to go way back in time, to say, like, the prehistoric age.
You wanted to know everything going on around you, because the more you knew about your surroundings, the less likely you were to get attacked by a predator. And there's even evidence that our brains release some dopamine, pleasure-producing neurotransmitter chemical, to reward us for seeking out and finding new information.
So getting distracted felt good and helped us stay alive. But the problem is that nowadays, predators aren't much of an issue, but we still have the same brains. And also, there's the internet, which is...
It's an incredibly information-rich environment that the net creates for us, and that's why we use it so much. I mean, sounds, pictures, words, text. And what this tends to do is promote a sort of compulsive behavior in which we're constantly checking our smartphone, constantly glancing at our email inbox. We're kind of living in this perpetual state of distraction and interruption.
Which is dangerous because...
that mode of thinking crowds out the more contemplative, calmer modes of thinking.
And that focused, calm thinking is actually how we learn. It's a process called memory consolidation.
And that means the transfer of information from our short-term working memory to our long-term memory. And it's through moving information from your working memory to your long-term memory that you create connections between that information and everything else you know.
So you've got this awesome life-changing piece of information in your short-term memory, but then you hear that email ding and poof, there it goes. That email takes its place and you never get a chance to learn anything, all because of one distraction.
So attention is the key, and if we lose control of our attention or are constantly dividing our attention, then we don't really enjoy that consolidation process.
But I can hear it now. Someone out there is saying, what does learning matter if all the information in the world is just a Google search away? Well,
that is kind of shortchanging our intellects. If that's the way you're using your mind, just kind of searching very quickly and finding information and then forgetting it very quickly, you're never building knowledge. You're kind of thinking like a computer.
which means that our very humanity is at stake. And it would be a shame if we all got assimilated because, well, humanity is pretty neat.
I really believe that if you look at the great monuments of culture, they come from people who are able to pay attention, who control their mind. That's what allows us to think in the highest terms, think conceptually, think critically, think in some very creative ways.
And it's this kind of thinking that's at risk, being eroded one cute cat video at a time. Don't get us wrong, the internet is good for lots of things, and it should be celebrated. But the best thing we can do for our minds is to find some time every day to unplug, calm down, and focus on one thing at a time. Your email and those cats will be here when you get back.
All right. So here, this presents with attention and memory consolidation. And, now with the rise in ADHD, we can see that there is an influence from the digital era. So, let's talk about adolescence. What does this stage of adolescence mean? At this time, this is where identity is beginning to form. Uncertainty about the role in society and identity is the most common trait. So the questions of who am I, how do I fit in, where am I going in life, this is the major role in an adolescent's life. And this is a lot of exploration and really understanding who they are within this world outside of the nuclear family. So on a neurological level, meaning the brain development, we know now from research that brain development goes all the way until the age of 25. And even we have some indicating it's about 30. Which basically means that the brain continues to develop all the way into early adulthood. And we know that in adolescence is where we experiment. A lot of experimental, whether it's with this or with that. And especially when they're involving themselves in screen time, which affects their brain. And their brain is beginning to now develop the prefrontal cortex, which is involved in what's called executive function, planning, organizing, impulse control. You can see here that it continues all the way until about 25, age 25. So, what? Oh, exercise. I'd like for you guys to shut off your cell phone. I'll do the same thing.
Put it on mute, is that the same?
Nope, off. Completely off.
What?
How are we feeling?
How are you feeling?
How are you feeling? Huh?
Nothing.
Notice anything?
No.
Mom?
I don't know, like you were just cut off from the world?
Huh?
That you were cut off from the
Cut
other
off from the world,
outside
right?
world, yeah?
I'm assuming these are your children?
Yeah, these are my three boys, yeah.
Okay.
What do you feel?
Same?
right?
Yeah.
What do you feel?
I feel fine.
You feel fine?
Yeah.
Okay.
How about yourself, sir?
Yeah, it look a little cut off.
Cut off,
cut off.
right?
Yeah.
And your mind might wander. Right? You have child at home, your wife at
Yeah.
home, you have your
Yeah.
other family members.
Yeah.
What if they need me?
Yeah,
If
how
they
to
call,
connect with them?
How are they gonna connect? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, okay.
So you can begin to feel a little bit of anxiety,
Yes.
even on a mild level. Your mind begins to wonder. Now there is some science behind that. Cell phone usage, a study among adolescents intensive mobile use has been perceived as poor health amongst girls and poor sleep. Heavy has been associated with somatic, which means physical complaints, anxiety, insomnia, depression, psychological and unhealthy lifestyle. So pretty much a lot of different effects. Now what they also did, which is an interesting research, is they developed a concept what they called in the literature called iPhone separation. So what they did is they had people put their cell phone on the other side of the room and had them do a task. And their cell phones went off. They were unable to complete the task because their minds were thinking, who's calling me? What do they want? What's going on? What if they need me? Etc., etc. So we're having a fifth limb develop called the cell phone. It's being a part of us, and even shutting it off and thinking, oh my God, I have a very young child. What if my child right now is sick? It's kind of automatic. So what happens in this study is the aversive motivational system, which basically means the heart rate was going up, they felt very unpleasant, their nervous system was tense, they had a decline in their performance, and the physiological levels of anxiety, blood pressure went up, all in response to the iPhone separation. So we're becoming dependent on this phone. Huh. Cell phones at night. You guys familiar with the impact that it has? You don't want to use cell phones at night. Why? Because the blue light tells the brain to stay up. It suppresses melatonin. Melatonin is a natural chemical we have that tells the brain to shut off. It engages the parasympathetic nervous system, which is calming. But when we're looking at a cell phone or even television or watching anything with a light, that mimics the sun, right? Light mimics the sun. So it tricks the brain to say, wait a minute, it's not, no, it's not, it's daytime. So we certainly don't want to have any of the cell phone screens at night. Now, it's not all bad. There are some positives, right? Positive effects of mobile use on mental health is ease of reaching to someone when they need, right? Implying they need access to social support. They don't feel so alone. Social support serves as a negative buffer, helps against negative effects of stress, while low social support is a risk factor associated with mental health symptoms. So for those children, for those individuals that have difficulty connecting with others, using the cell phone or using different social media, for example, helps them feel connected, which social support is essential for mental health. This is alarming, the correlation between TV and alcohol. 1 extra hour of television viewing was associated with an average of an almost 10% increase of drinking over the next 18 months with adolescents. Now, even more alarming, 1 extra hour of MTV is associated with almost a 31% increase in drinking alcohol over the next 18 months.
They're not just listening to music on their cell phone.
Listening is different.
A little different.
But we're talking about viewing, the eyes, right? Getting stimulus from the eyes. Any idea why?
Influence.
In what way?
Like if you watch a movie and like you see people drinking and it's like, I want to try it, so
Yeah. Right. Well done. Okay. Have you guys watched MTV lately?
Too much.
No? Back in the 80s when MTV
Yeah.
came out, you remember that?
Yeah.
Very different than how MTV is now. Also, the music videos, what do they highlight? That drinking, that type of lifestyle, the risque lifestyle. And kids are watching this. So they look up to that. They're, again, in this stage of adolescence. Who am I? Oh, I want to be like that person. I want to be famous. I want to be cool. Maybe I fit it. Let me try what they're doing. So they're finding their experimentation. And here, if they're watching something that they're seeing as cool, they're going to want to do the same thing. Okay, now let's shift a little bit to social media. What again, the issue we spoke about earlier, but I'll say it again. The issue with social media addiction, because it is significant now, is the research is lacking. Why? Because for years and years we've been focusing more on game video addiction, gaming. But we're just in like relatively recently, which in research is about 2010, and now we're starting to do a lot of research on social media. But what I wanted to present to you guys today is there are some motivations of why people are using the social media. Surveillance, their escapism, companionship, identity, right, associated with adolescence, entertainment, their instant messaging as a substitute for face-to-face conversations with friends. And what are the specific types of uses? Meeting people, they're trying to obtain information, a distraction, coping meaning helping manage some sort of uncomfortability or sense of distress, and a lot of emails. So it's becoming a kind of a major factor in our lives by kind of substituting against what we've done for ages, which is communicate with one another face to face. Trying to go to the library, for example, and learn about things. We just click a button and we get millions of bytes of information. So according to this research, they found that 83% of their users are on Facebook, and about more than a majority of them, about 68%, are using it on their smartphones, and about 46, almost 50% of them are posting on a daily basis at least one post. And with Facebook, it wasn't so bad about daily posts, more than 1%. Here with WhatsApp, you guys familiar with WhatsApp?
Yeah.
Right? 82% have it. And 82% are users on their smartphones. 82% of them post more than one per day. 32% of them post more than 10 per day. And then you got Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. So you can see that we are heavily connected to social media, trying to connect with each other. Right? What's up? These are adolescents, I might add. All right. So social networking. I will also want to say that it's not all bad. There is research that reveals that people do develop intimate relationships, especially with individuals that have body image challenges, especially in adolescence. Connectivity allows adolescents to experiment with identity, again, going back to that stage of development. Anonymity can help them really overcome any, perhaps some social anxiety or challenges they might feel about themselves. One thing that I also want to show you guys is 3 websites called Daily Strength, Support Groups, and Ning. Daily Strength is a group of individuals that come together that kind of share their own personal struggles, and they really kind of support each other. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. It's similar to Facebook. You put you build a page, and people can find each other and really support each other. A little bit more clinical, meaning more therapy oriented, is support groups. It's free. You go online and people can support one another. And then Ning. This is a fascinating website. Ning is a platform. So like Facebook, the way that it's designed, you go and you create your own page and then you invite your friends. So Ning really gives the individual the ability to build their own Facebook. So for example, if I like art and I say, okay, I want to invite you to my page, I'm going to send you an email. You can go on my website and build your own page, and we can talk to each other about art, and we can build different communities and talk about art, etc. So it's a way that people can communicate in a more pro-social, more positive way. So it's not all bad. That's really the point here. All right, let's test your knowledge a little bit. Can you guess what this is? 15 minutes? What does that sound like?
More.
Huh?
More.
15 minutes what? Can you try to
15
guess
minutes or more.
where that comes from? Maybe from what you've heard from watching TV? Huh?
No. No, I'll say it's
And we said 15 minutes more, meaning, maybe can I have 15 more minutes more before I go to bed or something?
Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, in a way, yeah. But let me give you some preface here. But this is more about marketing. So can you guess where you might have heard that? 15 minutes, maybe something you've heard from an ad. Geico,
Oh, 15 minutes.
15 minutes,
Just to get your
Yeah.
right?
yeah.
How about this? Just do it. Nike, right? You want that quick.
It's about shoes.
Yes. Everybody knows Nike. How about this? It only does everything. You guys should know that. Gamers.
PlayStation or Xbox?
PlayStation. You know it.
Oh.
Ah, how about this one? Think differently. Think different. It used to be apples.
Oh.
So they spend a lot of money on trying to influence us to remember these things. And we do. How can we fight that with our children, who their brains and their minds are so impressionable, and they're spending almost 8 hours a day in front of the screen? So, I'm going to talk to you guys about how to limit, how to work with this, what we got. Definitely we want to eliminate background TV. So for those that turn on the TV to hear something in the background while you're cooking or while you're walking around the house or whatever it is, you want to eliminate background TV. You also want to keep TVs and computers out of the bedroom. No TVs or computers in the bedroom. The bedroom is only for sleep. No TVs in the bedroom. We know from research, we looked earlier, it does influence the performance of children. Keep an open communication. Don't eat in front of the TV. Set school day rules. Right? You can only watch TV for half an hour or an hour after you do your homework, but certainly not before bedtime. Remember the blue light. Avoid using TV and video as a reward. If you do your homework, if you do a chore, you can get more time on the television. Unplugging. This is a national movement that is really being ongoing for quite some time now, called Screen Free Week. And if you go online to screenfree.org, you can add yourself to it. And it's really, again, a national movement where everybody's trying to shut off complete electronics for 1 week. And what we can do instead is the classic activities, right? Like reading, playing a sport, trying a new board game. Let's all play Twister, that old game that we used to play. Now, things that you guys as parents can do at home, make viewing TV an event. So on Tuesdays, we're gonna watch American Idol, or we're gonna watch whatever the Stranger Things on Netflix that everybody watches now. Plan to see a movie in a theater. So we're making it more of a family event. Plan what your child views. Use the parental guidelines, right? The PG, the R, the G. There's TVY. If you look at Netflix, you can see some of the guidelines. Make a list of what they can and cannot watch. Use parental controls on the home computer. You guys know about screen time on the iPhone? That app that Apple came out with, where you can limit different apps. You can also buy software like there's a thing called Guardian, Then you can select certain programs that your children can watch, ratings, etc. ESRB. You guys know what ESRB? Yeah? Oh, you do? Alright, tell me.
Video game reading.
Yeah, right. So there's different there's different video game readings. Years ago, when I started to do this research, I went to, what is that store? GameStop. There it is. GameStop. And I walked in there, and I'd never been there before. And I would see children, parents there, and I walked up to the cashier, the people that worked there, and I asked them, do you guys know about ESRB rating? And she said, of course we do. And I said, can you tell me a little bit about how you guys work with that? Well, if a parent comes to us with a child and they want to buy, like, I'll use the classic example, Call of Duty, which is more of a teen or a mature, right? If you purchase it and the child says, I want Call of Duty, they found that most parents have no idea what ESRB ratings are. They will tell the parent, I was surprised to hear this, pleasantly surprised, of course. They will tell the parent that according to the ratings, this is not recommended for your child. And they have found that parents, most of the time, adhere to that. Sometimes the child nags, again, that nag factor, we learned about that earlier. I want it, I don't care. And, you know, they can only do so much. But the idea is that they actually do prevent parents and teach parents about this rating. So I want you guys to learn that too. Watch with your child and talk about what you see. A lot when I work with substance abuse kids and their families, I ask them rather, to watch Intervention. There's a show on A&E where they talk about individuals that go through drugs and have difficulties and their stories, and I ask for them to pause it and talk about what they're learning so that it's more educational and they're really watching together and talking about it. Record programs. We learned marketing is a billion-dollar industry. So how can we avoid it? One thing that we can avoid it is recording. Right? We can record a show, fast forward through the commercials. And if we really have to watch American Idol, or we really have to watch The Bachelor, or whatever it is, mute during the commercials. So at least we're trying to navigate through this digital era. And have dinner with your family. There is specific research that indicates the more dinners you have, specifically 5 to 7 dinners per week, decreases the potential use of alcohol, tobacco, marijuana, other legal drugs, and prescription drugs. Pretty much everything. You see the difference? Significant. With 0 to 2 dinners per week is very high. Compared to 5 to 7, we reduce it substantially. So there's a strategy that you guys can use very well. You know, have dinner with your family every day. Any questions?